Hello fellow musicians, this is VXT and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be reviewing some music from the creative mind of this artist, the cat named Lloyd Khan, and who's given us some trance-induced funk vibes, and the genre that we're going to be listening to is avant-garde structured improvisation. And looking at some of the SoundCloud material that we've received, it seems like we're going to be listening to some ambient music. I'm not really sure if we are listening to more electronic stuff, or if it's going to be more acoustic and improvisation. But here's a fun quote by the artists themselves. Massive world beat percussions, ethereal guitars and keyboards, alongside chants and the spoken word, comprise this eclectic and intriguing blend of music. Nothing short of an awe-inspiring experience. Those are some heavy words to live up to, my man, but I'm gonna assume it's gonna be something really great. So without any further ado, we're gonna jump right into the first song of Lloyd Khan's Enchanted Forest, which is titled Enchanted World. Yeah. So right off the bat, this is definitely some high quality production going on. Like the panning from the right to the left speaker and left back to the right of the shaker that you had going on. And the bass line, I thought the bass line was, maybe it's like a slide effect that you were trying to do, or maybe it's just clipping at certain points, or it's anti-aliasing. I don't know what you recorded this with. Just that bleep sounds every time we had a change in notes. Really intriguing with just the small blips and blobs here and there, but a really nice start, the first song, I must say. I like how we're going through sections. Like, we started off with this. I was confused in the beginning of what's happening because the bass guitars were changing really slowly. Like, they were going at a certain BPM. I'm not really sure what exactly was happening out there. But then all of a sudden we had these shakers going in the background from the right to the left, which were at a different BPM. Maybe it's like a swing. Like, I didn't know what was happening. Maybe my brain was just trying to find a four on the floor beat in the bass line. But then the shakers were doing some kind of polyrhythm, and now we have these spacey instruments and like percussions, especially the reverb on the vocals. It definitely puts you in like such a space. Everything is really wide. There is no walls that you're listening to, like usually with most pop or hip hop records that I usually work with. everything's like part of a room and you can hear reflections. I like how you're going for that open air ambience, like a jungle kind of vibe where there are no reflections, at least not early reflections in terms of the reverb. The reverb is just putting the drums in a particular space with like really high density, and I like how it's really low and emphasized. I'm digging it so far. Let's see where we go from here. Before we go into the next section, I just want to say this is definitely taking me through a journey. Like, I have no idea what to expect. Like, all of the sections are so unique. Like, I really love the arpeggio, the sinusoidal plucky sound that you had going on. My guess it's made in Cylind, or it could be like an analog synthesizer. I don't know. It sounded really organic without any aliasing. So sound design wise, really good choices before we went into this like electric guitar break. And even in terms of mixing, I can hear that the electric guitars were panned left and right, and you had like a couple of different recordings, or maybe you had the same recording with it wasn't even has effect. So I think the difference in times was a little around 30 to 40 milliseconds from the left to the right. The left one was coming to my ears a little earlier, and the right one's a little later. So the artist Lloyd Khan definitely knows what he's doing in terms of the track. Oh my god, this song is so trippy. I would love to not review this, just have it playing in the background, pop a couple of edibles and just sit and meditate. Like, this is meditation music. This is taking me to a different sphere, taking me into a different plane. The only thing in terms of the mix, I thought the guitars in the middle were a little too loud, and I don't know if this was an artistic choice, but especially when we had the Gens style guitars chugging in the background, and we had another guitar, acoustic guitar, I think, on top. It was trying to get a lot or a little bit overcrowded, especially in like the mid range of around 500 to like 800 hertz. It was just trying to all these instruments were fighting for the exact same space. So I would love to have this be a little more spaced out, a little softer, if that makes sense. So in terms of the dynamic range, I think even when we started, we were at around negative 13 to negative 12 LUFS, and now we're going all the way to like negative 9 LUFS. So the dynamic range in terms of RMS is really small, especially for this kind of music. For pop music or for hip hop, for any of the R&B records, I think that's the range that people try and hit. But especially with something that's a little more spacey, something more earthy, something more ambient, maybe you can have certain parts of the song be a little quieter, so people can emphasize on what they want to listen to. Like right when the synthesizer came in at the end, this plucky sawtooth synthesizer, I think it's like a somewhere between a sawtooth and a square synthesizer. It's trying to occupy the exact same space as the guitars underneath, and it's trying to crowd up the mix a little bit for my brain to completely engage into one kind of sound. It's like listening to like 10 different songs. Like I think we also had a key change right around 6 minute mark. So musically, there's so much to grasp onto. Sonically, there's so much that your brain has to focus on. It's a complicated song, and I can imagine how long it actually took you to come up with something like this. I'm just trying to give you constructive criticism, so the next time you're trying to make something like this, it might help you not only just to have things in the background, but the reverb work and like the delays are really amazing. The guitars that came in during the solo were mixed pretty well, but then the chugging guitars and then the rock guitars you have in the background, I think they're a little bit too loud for my liking. And then the one guitar that was in there from around 4.5 minutes to 5.5 minutes, that guitar was a little too loud because I could almost hear the microphone noise pickup. Like even when you were sliding or moving your hand across the frets, I can hear the dead notes or the muted notes. Now that might be an artistic choice. It's just, as an engineer, I would try and get rid of those. Oh, amazing song overall. I like that you had a callback per se from like a stand-up term of the synthesizer from the beginning right at the end, and just so many emotions that this song takes you on. It's almost a journey, and not to forget all the small ear candy that you put in throughout the song, there was just small bips and blobs like of vocals, chants here and there, just to add a more organic feel. Definitely excited and looking forward to where this EP takes us with track number 2, which is The Moody Blues. Oh, before we go into that solo with that exotic instrument, I'm loving the sound already of this one. A lot more than the previous one, to be honest. It's all subjective, and my opinion, I really like the snare sound you had going on in the beginning, and the pads. Like, it almost sounds like Noah 40 Shabib. It's like a Contact library, or maybe from Omnisphere. I can't exactly pinpoint what kind of pad it was, but it was some kind of hypersaws, and the chord progression is also beautiful. I thought we were going from a 1-6-4-5, but then you switched it up to a 2-5-1 to give it a more jazzy or blues feel. All the 7s and the 9s coming in the chords, along with the drums. Like, there was this sound on the 1 every alternate beat. It was like not a kick drum, it was like some kind of a pot sound. I don't know how to describe it, like a poing. But it was definitely gives me a cultural and an exotic vibe. And I'm just reading through the description here. All his music is guaranteed to take listeners on a unique musical journey, and I can definitely +1 that for sure. All right, before we change the vibe again completely, which we just as well did, you just gotta pay attention to how much the artist has paid attention to detail, like just the snare. So every other snare drum, so it was kick, snare, kick, and then for the second snare, every offbeat, there was a pre-snare that was basically the snare but reversed, and then just the tail was used to bring it into a more of a groove, and then the hi-hats were sitting with some kind of a swing, just doing like a 5/8 notes to give you like the polyrhythm. So attention to detail and like such minute things. I really like what we're going for so far. Again, just to point out some of the things that I did not like about the song so far. The guitar solos that we had, I think we had basically 2 guitar solos with like a pad section in between, which was 3 bars instead of a 4 for some reason before we had the kick coming in to basically boost and accentuate the groove. I don't know what key we're working in. Is this Phrygian? It seemed more Phrygian than we went into a Dorian. We were using like the sharp, C sharp, and D. I think we're also going in between notes, so maybe I'm just not privy to some of the music that he's borrowing or some of the music he's using in terms of theory. But if I was the recording engineer, tracking engineer for this song, I would have taken a couple more takes. It seemed like some of the times we were off in terms of timing. Now, this can be just to give you an organic feel, to make you feel like you're in the same room and this person is actually playing the guitar for the live. And when you listen to things live, there is a sense of imperfection. So I think we're capturing that pretty well. But as a recording engineer, I would have just loved to take a couple more takes, tune the guitar a little bit more to be a 12-tone equal temperament. Maybe we're working in some other scale. Maybe we're working with semi-half notes and scales that I don't understand, but not a big fan of the guitar solos, the 2 guitar solos. The first one was nice before we switched, and the second one just takes it all the way in. And again, I feel like it's a little bit too loud in terms of the volume, because we're also applying some saturation and distortion, which based on the Fletcher-Munson curve from 3K to 7K, which is like where most of the speech is, and evolutionarily speaking, that's where you're basically most sensitive to volume. I think we had the pad going on in the background, but it was really hard to hear. So maybe turn down the guitar volume a little bit and have the saturation take over a little bit more. Maybe we have the DI. It's kind of like a Strat sound, but like I said, I'm just giving you my subjective opinion. This could definitely be an artistic choice, and if it is, kudos to you, Lloyd, and let's see where we go from here. At some point, I was expecting us to go into a Latin Spanish groove of like, because the kick drum in the middle was definitely a very Latin American sound. But then all of a sudden, we just changed the vibe into something completely different at around 3.5 minute mark. We had this one, what's the word? Cowbell? Like a rim snare, and then we started to add some more tabla and more exotic instruments. I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. It's definitely complicated, but also at the same time, you can just have it and relax. So that's a really hard balance to achieve. So let's see what we got with track number 3, which is 11, Spirit of Khan. Oh, love that guitar. Now, this room that I'm sitting in might not be the best room to review this song because I know my room has a resonant frequency at 60 hertz and all its harmonics and 120, 240, 180 odd harmonics especially. And I think we are dealing with a rumble bass, which is really fat and taking over the track, but especially in this room, it's overpowering so much at 120 hertz. Absolutely love that guitar. Absolutely. All the transitions are definitely like when I'm least expecting a change, it's just like, oh, here we're gonna change and we're gonna keep the same groove, but we're gonna change all the instruments, all the snares, all the drums, and just drop you right in, and you're not even gonna be able to feel the difference. And I love the fact about the transition. It's so smooth. Okay, so I was wondering, so when we had this fat bass line going on along with the drum, I thought it was just the interaction between the two causing some phasing issues, but I think it's just the sample. Or maybe it's the compressor. Maybe the kick is going through a compressor, and I think the attack is a little too slow for my liking. So attack is basically the time it takes for the compressor to kick in. I would use a multi-band compressor to not let the compressor affect low end below like 60 hertz. Which is a really common technique, especially in rock music when you have a bass drum with some fundamental frequency. Oh my god. That was a fun ride. Let's see what we got with track number 4, The Looking Glass. Before we even start, just want to point out the quotes that he has. Our inner selves are manifested by our ideas. Oh, and I just want to mention that there was another quote that I missed from track number 1, which was, "There is nothing more harmful than your own unguarded thoughts." Like, oh my god, this man can make music. He can come up with quotes. Just like, take my money and leave, man. But let's see what we got with The Looking Glass. What happened there? We just cut out some frequencies from one of the ears, and I was like, "Oh, did something happen to my ear?" uh, Sorry about that. Oh, listening back to the cello that came in from the right speaker. Also to mention, the last song that we just heard had a really nice cello piece. It's just that there is so many amazing things happening that I just miss out on certain sections. There was a really good, nice cello section in the last song as well. But what's about to happen? There's suspense building up. I can see the low pass filter. It's opening up a bit now. Oh, this is anxiety inducing. There we have the hash effect again. Am I counting the beats wrong in my head, or is there a snare on 1 and 3? Oh, maybe I was counting wrong. Oh, I'm surprised with the hat sound. Is that supposed to be like that? It sounds like an artifact of when you stretch, like let's say you have a loop that's supposed to be played at 70 BPM, but you want to stretch it to double time to play it at 140. It kind of sounds something like that with like an elastic stretching algorithm. I'm just curious if you use Reaper by any chance, because that sounds like a Reaper stretching algorithm sound to me. I love how dark this sound is. Am I hypnotized? Oh, I gotta pinch myself. This was definitely an experience. Lloyd Khan, man, that's some amazing music. You got like 4,999 follows. Well, I'm gonna be a 5,000. So let's go to conclusion time. So I'm gonna listen to this album a couple more times and I'll let you know what I really think about it. So I'm gonna give this a little bit of time so I can marinate and listen to the album a couple more times so my brain can get used to the ideas and sounds and the sonic landscapes that you're creating. But I'll tell you what I think about it in a couple of days in conclusion time. So going into this EP/album by Lloyd Khan called The Enchanted Forest, I wasn't sure what to expect, and I had high expectations just looking at the bio that he provided me with of like ethereal guitars and keyboards and chants and spoken word. I'm like, this sounds all over the place, with genre being avant-garde, ambience, funk, and trance. I did have high expectations, and you've definitely not only managed to keep those expectations, but even raised the bar high. I just wanted to say, as like a musician and an A&R at a record label that I used to work with, why isn't your music on Spotify? Because this is definitely the type of music that I'm not gonna go and seek out. I do like ambient music myself, but my ways of consuming most ambient music is just to put on a Spotify playlist. This should definitely be on Spotify, Tidal, and you should approach curators. Just pitch your songs to music curators. You definitely know what you're doing, or the other way of putting it would be, it's someone who knows how to play with audio. Because right from the get-go with Ear Candy on Enchanted World into Moody Blues and the scales that we were shifting in terms of keys, and in the Spirit of Khan, which is more of a commercial record, and Looking Glass, which was small. I mean, 5.5 minutes in terms of today's music is pretty long, but it felt like I needed some more. And just the overall vibe that I got from the project, like I did not know what to expect. I was listening to 4 bars, I'm like, the next 4 bars could be a guitar solo, it could be completely silent with just random blips and blops here and there. It could have been anything. Like, it definitely justifies the genre of moody, ethereal funk. I didn't know what those words meant, but now I do. So really kudos to the artist and really good work on this project. I don't have much to say except for in terms of mixing, like I pointed out in a couple of parts, I felt like some of the instruments were a little too loud and didn't have enough space to breathe. The other complaint or like disagreement I would have with is the overall compression, the dynamic range compression that you have going on overall for all the songs. Like there didn't seem like some of the songs, like especially in this genre, the kind of space that you're going into, you could have some parts that are quiet. It gives some space, some room for the song to breathe and creates a contrast between the parts when something really hits you. And also the Looking Glass, there was the hi-hat groove that was doing some weird things. It was almost artifacty. Like I said, again and again, this is all artistic liberty. In terms of mixing, I would have taken a little bit of different choices. That's all my point is. But that's enough from my side. If you guys haven't checked out, please check out Lloyd Khan. He's amazing at what he does. And I'm going to share his Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter down in the description below. And if you haven't, please check him out on the socials and leave him a follow and a like. That's it from my side. Hope you have an amazing day. Peace.